All right, so today we're going to talk about the 11th house in astrology. What does it mean on that very basic level? So last time we talked about the 10th house, which was everything to do with our productiveness, our career, our legacy, essentially the things in our life path that we're doing for work or for something that we feel like is going to be long lasting. And so now the progression from the 10th to the 11th is essentially taking this productive energy or our work or career, or whatever, and now seeing where we can give. Where can we share and contribute to things larger than self? So that's essentially what the 11th is any area of life that has to do with things larger than self, things that have to do with groups, community, organizations, networks, friends can be seen from the 11th. But also, our visions, because essentially the 11th house is where we can start to see what the future holds for what the world needs or where the world is going. It's very other-oriented, but other future-oriented in that sense. So you can see things like, your visions for the future, but specifically involving the more progressive energies of life. So things like, humanitarianism can be seen from the 11th, technology can be seen from the 11th, especially anything that, again, you consider progressive in nature. All right, so that's essentially what the 11th is. You can see this in the location of this house. For one, it's on the top left quadrant. So the top of the chart is about extrinsic values. Again, the outwardly focused, what can I give, what can I contribute to, is the top of the chart. The left of the chart is personal. So these are our own personal values or our own personal interests or things that we want to create or focus on and put energy into. You can also see it from the axes. It's on the 11th and the 5th house axes. If you recall from the last 5th house video, we talked about the 5th house being everything personal, everything that is about our own personal interests, our own personal focuses and passions in life. So essentially the 11th, completely opposite that 5th, is about how we can take our own interests and give and share and really see that they're one and the same, that the things we're actually very passionate about or interested in is what the group needs or is what the world needs or what have you. And if you do find that there's a lot of energy in the 11th, you can balance it with the 5th. So if there's a lot of other oriented energy, balancing it with what are your passions, what are your interests are, and that will help balance out this axis. You can also see it too by the fact that it's an air house, so it's associated with Aquarius in terms of its sign. You can see Saturn is associated with it too, because traditionally Saturn was associated with the 11th house, or with Aquarius rather, and Uranus modernly. Okay, so those are the three energies, specifically air when it has to do with ideas and thinking, and even relationships is another air sort of quality, but again it's more of the relationships within the group or the network. Now it's also a succedent house, so it's a house of desire, right? All the succedent houses are of what we want, and so here it's wanting to be a part of something larger, or it's wanting to give. It's a big part of this house also. So that's it in terms of its location and area. What you want to do is you want to look to see if you have any planets in that 11th house. The more planets, the more prominent these areas of life will be for you. The planets are essentially showing the experiences that you have in this area. So for example, if your sun's in the 11th, the way you gain energy and what you're focused on is progressive things or new things or your groups or friends and things like that. In those areas you essentially gain prana through. That would be an example of a planet, but you also want to see what the sign placement is of that 11th, because we don't always have planets, and the signs will always give you more information. So the signs are essentially showing you the characteristics that come through this area of life. And the most important sign is the 11th house cusp. So the sign that's right at the beginning of that 11th house. Whatever that sign is, it'll show you the quality. So for example, let's use an example of Libra. Let's say that the individual here, in the way in which they organized groups, or they're a part of these group-oriented things, would be in a way of having balance, having justice, having mutual respect, mutual understanding and harmony, and that would naturally be their approach. But you'd also see those qualities come through those groups and 11th house things also. So once you've done those two things, you've done a pretty good service to the chart in terms of its interpretation. But to get even more specific information, you can look at the 11th house ruler. And so in this particular example, it would be Venus, because Venus rules Libra. There will be a PDF down below if you want to check to see what the rulers are. But the ruler's house and sign placements will give you a good detailed picture, as well as the significator of the 11th house. So since we're talking about both modern Uranus and traditional Saturn, you want to see where both Saturn and Uranus is placed in your chart, and that'll give you a good idea of more information about the groups or, friends, networks, and all these other 11th house things. All right, so that's the 11th house in a nutshell. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. I'll see you guys next time.